We shall discuss about proteins. Proteins are organic molecules that are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, besides nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. So, like carbohydrates and lipids, it contains carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. But besides the three elements, it contains nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Now that makes proteins unique from the other food substances like carbohydrates and lipids. Now the building blocks of proteins are known as the amino acids. The building blocks of proteins are amino acids. There are about 20 amino acids in nature. There are about 20 amino acids in nature. And these amino acids, when two amino acids combine, they form what we call a dipeptide molecule. So therefore, when two amino acids, if you combine two amino acids in a process known as condensation, it forms a dipeptide molecule. So a combination of two amino acids forms a dipeptide molecule. And during that process of condensation, water is released. During that process of condensation, water is released. But also it can be hydrolyzed. This dipeptide molecule can be hydrolyzed back to their respective amino acids in a process known as hydrolysis. In that process known as hydrolysis. Now, the bond that unites two amino acids, the bond that unites two amino acids in a dipeptide molecule is referred to as a peptide bond. It is known as a peptide bond. And the longest chain of amino acids, if several amino acids combine during that process of condensation to form a longest chain, it is referred to as a polypeptide chain. It is referred to as a polypeptide chain. Now, this is the structure of an amino acid. Amino acid, it is attached to one carbon. So a carbon is attached to four different groups of molecules. So it is attached with the amino group, which is the base. It is attached to hydrogen group. It is attached to an acidic group or the carboxylic group, and also the organic group. So when amino acid is attached to four different groups like this, at a high level of learning, it is referred to as isomerism. It is referred to as isomerism when a carbon compound is attached to four different groups like this, or like the one that happens in the amino acid. Now, there are two types of amino acids. There are two types of amino acids in nature. Out of 20 natural occurring amino acids, there are two types. We have what we call essential amino acids, and we have what we call non-essential amino acids. So there are two types of amino acids. We have what we call essential and non-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are those amino acids that are obtained from diet. They are obtained from food or the diet, while non-essential amino acids are those types of amino acids that are synthesized by the body. Remember, in the liver plays a role in formation of amino acids during the urinary cycle. So those amino acids which are formed by the body, which is not obtained from the diet, are referred to as non-essential amino acids. But essential amino acids are obtained from the diet. Now, there are two types of protein molecules in nature. There are two types. We have what we call structural proteins, and we have what we call functional proteins. When I talk about structural proteins, I'm referring to protein molecules such as the keratin that forms the hair, they form the hooves, they form the nails. The nails, we have also the hair in mammals. They are referred to as structural proteins, including skeletal muscles. In the muscles, we have protein molecules known as actin and myosin. Those are responsible for formation of the structural muscles in the body. Now, what forms the skeleton? The skeletal system in the body is the collagen. The collagen molecules are responsible in formation of the skeleton, which includes the bone and the cartilage. Now, we have functional proteins. Functional proteins are proteins such as the enzymes, we have antibodies, and also hormones. Those forms part of the functional proteins. Now, what are the properties of proteins? One, we say it dissolves in water to form colloidal suspension. Proteins, when they dissolve in water, they are insoluble. And the resultant solution which is formed when protein molecules dissolve in water is known as a colloidal suspension. So colloidal suspension is formed when the whole solution becomes insoluble. So when protein molecules dissolves in water, it forms what we call colloidal suspension. Proteins are denatured by high temperatures above 40 degrees centigrade. They denature the structure of proteins and even its properties. So therefore it is altered when temperatures increases above 40 degrees centigrade. Also, their nature can also be altered by strong acids and bases. When strong bases and acids are subjected to protein molecules, their structure and their nature becomes altered. Also, protein molecules are amphoteric, that is, they have both acidic property and basic property. For example, if you look at the structure of amino acids, this is the basic property, that is the amino end, and this is the acidic property. So therefore, when the two properties, that is both acid and bases, is present in that compound, we say that they are amphoteric. Protein molecules combine with non-proteins to form what we call conjugate proteins. For example, if you look at mucus, the mucus contains carbohydrates. So the non-protein molecule which is found in the mucus is the carbohydrate. When they combine with protein molecules, they form what we call the conjugate proteins. In hemoglobin, the non-protein molecule which is found in hemoglobin is the iron. So when they combine with protein molecules, they form what we call the conjugate proteins. Protein molecules are hydrolyzed into their constituent amino acids by hydrolysis. Look at what you say initially in this diagram. If you combine two amino acids by condensation, that dipeptide molecule, which is a protein, is formed. Hence, it releases water. So therefore, the backward reaction, if you hydrolyze the dipeptide molecule, in that process known as hydrolysis, you get the respective amino acids. And last property of protein is that it has a high molecular weight. For example, the globulin, we have the hemoglobin, we find that their structure is light. So therefore, they possess what we call the high molecular weight. Now, what are the importance of proteins? Proteins are the component of structures in living organisms. For example, the keratin, we have actin and myosin, which forms the muscles. We also have the collagen, which forms the skeletal system. So they are all those comprises of the component, or the main component system of the structure in the body of a living organism. Two is that it forms most enzymes. Most enzymes like pepsin, like trypsin, are made of proteins. So therefore, it forms most of the formulation from protein molecules. Also proteins, they form part of formulation of enzymes. We have hormones, not enzymes. They form better formulation of hormones. Hormones like follicle stimulating hormone, they are made up of protein molecules. Hormones like the adrenaline, they form main part of protein molecules. Also other hormones which are found in the body, that forms the endocrine system, are formulation of protein molecules. Four is that they form metabolic regulators like the enzymes. Remember the role of the enzymes in the body? They alter or they take part in metabolism by changing the physiological state of various metabolic processes in the body. So therefore they form metabolic regulators, for instance the enzymes, the hormones, which are the metabolic factors. Five is that they are involved in transmission of hereditary traits to the offspring. So for example, the DNA and the RNA, you realize that the DNA molecules or the nucleic acids are formed by the protein. So therefore, it forms part of that transmission of hereditary characteristics to offsprings by living organisms. Also formation of RNA. RNA is still part of the nucleic acids like the DNA. It is made of protein molecules, so therefore it is involved in formation of the ribonucleic acids. Also, number 7 is that they are the alternative sources of energy. During starvation, protein molecules are oxidized to release energy in absence of lipids, in absence of carbohydrates, in absence of glucose. So therefore, when there are absence of carbohydrates, protein molecules are oxidized to release energy in form of ATP. Also, they form the respiratory pigments such as the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin has the highest affinity for oxygen. So if you look at hemoglobin, it is formed by protein molecules. So therefore it forms most of the respiratory pigments such as the hemoglobin in the blood or myoglobin in the muscles. Also they form the defense mechanism in the body. For example, the antibodies. Antibodies are proteins in nature. So therefore it is formed by protein molecules. So these are the importance or functions of proteins in the body. Now, let's look at how to test the presence of proteins. Now, there are 3 methods of testing proteins. We have what we call the Burette test, we have the albumin test, we have the Millon's reagent test. These are the 3 tests which are used in testing the presence of proteins. Now, the procedure, remember when we say Burette test, albumin test, Millon's reagent test, all the reagents are the same. The reagents are 10% sodium hydroxide solution and 1% copper sulfate solution. So the procedure is you measure 2 centimeter cubed of the test sample or the food sample that are given to be tested into a test tube. Now, if you are given a measuring cylinder, you say measure exactly 2 centimeter cubed or 1 centimeter cube of the test sample or the food sample into that test tube. Then you add equal amounts of 10% sodium hydroxide solution and then you shake. After shaking, you add 1% copper sulfate solution. Drop wise, after every shake, you add a drop of copper sulfate in every addition. And then you observe the formation of purple color. If there is formation of purple color in that food sample or in that test sample, you will say that proteins are present. And if there is absence of the purple color in that test solution, after adding the reagents, you will say proteins are absent. So I'll demonstrate using the few reagents that I have on how to test proteins. Now here I have milk. Milk is one of the proteins or protein compounds that are available. I said you measure, since I don't have a measuring cylinder, I'll measure about 2 centimeter cubed, about. But if I'll be provided with a measuring cylinder, I'll say measure exactly 2 centimeter cubed. If it is 1 centimeter cubed, say measure 1 centimeter cubed. Now, after putting about 2 centimeter cubed of the food solution, you add 10% sodium hydroxide solution. This sodium hydroxide solution, then it should be equal amounts. If you have measured 2 centimeter cubed of the test sample, sodium hydroxide solution should also be equal in volume. So it should be around 2 centimeter cubed, equal to the food solution that is tested, and then you shake like this. So after shaking, ensure that the solution as formed is homogeneous, it has formed uniform solution. Then you add copper sulfate or 1% copper sulfate drop wise in every shake. So I add a drop like this and then I shake like that. So you see already the purple color is formed. Then another drop and then I shake. Now already the purple color has been formed. This is the last drop. So the formation of purple color, look, yeah, this is the purple color which is used to confirm the presence of proteins. So if purple color is formed, like in that case, you will say protein molecules are present, presence of proteins in that food sample. Now remember what happens. Sodium hydroxide solution is used to hydrolyze the protein molecules into the respective amino acids. And then by adding copper sulfate or 1% copper sulfate, you are confirming whether protein molecules are present or absent in that food sample. If there is formation of purple color like this, you'll say there is presence of protein. But if there is absence of purple or purple color, in that case, in that food solution, you'll say protein molecules are absent. Otherwise, that is the end of our lesson. We'll meet in our next lesson. Thank you.